As a smaller YouTuber, it's extremely rare for me to ever have things sent to my email. It's even more rare for me to be sent games of all things. Then, when I am sent games, I often feel conflicted about whether or not I should cover them on my channel. That's not to say that these games are bad, no, not at all, I'm just a horribly indecisive person. However, when Hype Train Digital sent me a code for Escape from Ever After, I watched the trailer, saw a game clearly inspired by Paper Mario with a little guy shooting Cthulhu in the face with a beach ball. And before I knew it, the game was in my Steam library. I ended up beating the game in a single weekend, and after that I just continued to work on my other script while keeping an eye out for reception on the game. As time went on, I kept looking around to see videos discussing Escape from Ever After, but I didn't really find a whole lot. I was really eager to talk about the game with somebody because I had just beat it and I was holding all these thoughts in my head and I just wanted to see some discussion. I remember I was sitting there thinking, damn, I really wish someone would just make a video about this game. And then I had the realization, wait, why don't I just make a video about that game? So I made a video about that game. I'm such a good writer. Thanks to suddenly rediscovering that I have free will, today we're talking about my latest obsession, Escape from Ever After. Development on Escape from Ever After began all the way back in 2020. Ryan Kittner, the project founder, made his first post about a Paper Mario-inspired game on September 10th of that year. In this post, he showed off the walk cycle of a little guy that would eventually become the protagonist of this game. As time went on, Kittner would continue working on this little project, updating Twitter with progress on the game. On October 16th, 2021, this project would get an official name. Flint Buckler Wakes the Sleeping Castle. Very different from what we have now. Just a few months later in December, Kittner would announce that he was now working on the project full-time. Previously, he was juggling game development with another job, but now that he was focused on Flint Buckler full-time, he was really able to maximize time spent on development and even expand the team. Just scrolling on through a lot of these older tweets is a lot of fun. You can tell that people were really excited for the game to come out. There was also this really cool mini competition held on February 15th in 2022. According to the tweet, the next enemy would be designed by a fan. People could reply to this post and provide a text-based description for an enemy they'd like to see in the game. Whichever reply had the most likes would have their suggestion implemented in the final release. And this thread is just full of people tossing out different suggestions for an enemy. Personally, I really like the Night Knight. It's described by this user as riding on a tiny nightmare and using attacks that involve sleeping and throwing pillows at the party. That's just such a good pun, you have to respect it. Another user suggested adding a librarian barbarian. This muscular enemy would be clad with fur armor, wearing glasses, and holding a book that they can pull several weapons out of. This user ended up winning the competition, and their librarian barbarian enemy was put in the game. We got our first look at this enemy on April 14th, 2022, and he looks nearly identical to his appearance in the final game. I wanted to bring this up not only because the competition is super cool, but because it demonstrates just how many people were earnestly hyped for this game and supported it as much as possible. And support it they did, as on November 5th, 2022, the project was fully funded on Kickstarter. This was only 4 days after the campaign went live. The campaign ran throughout the entirety of November, and the project amassed over 2,000 backers and over $92,000. This completely demolished the original goal of $40,000 while also hitting every single stretch goal. People really wanted to have this game in their hands, and it's completely understandable. The first 2 Paper Mario games are widely beloved for a multitude of reasons. To have yet another game in the style of those 2 would be a dream come true. A year later, on October 24th, it was announced that the game would be receiving a new name. Escape from Ever After. The change was made after the team felt like the original name did not accurately reflect the game they were making. From the About the Game tab on Kickstarter, we can see that the main castle we explore in the final game was once called Sleepy Castle. It was our goal to wake the Sleepy Castle from a capitalistic nightmare. That part about capitalism remains in the final game, while the Sleepy Castle is something that's not really mentioned. I'm not even really sure if the castle has an official name in the final game. All in all, I feel like the name change was a good call. Sorry to drop bars on you there. I think this new title places a lot more emphasis on the evil corporation at the heart of the story. Speaking of the story, I think our history lesson is just about wrapped up. So let's finally jump into the plot of Escape from Ever After. Our story begins with a book called The Adventures of Flint Buckler. In this fantastical tale, the titular Flint Buckler tries again and again to defeat a villainous dragon known as Tinder. We find Flint standing at the entrance of Tinder's castle, preparing for one final showdown with his arch nemesis. Stepping inside, he's greeted by harsh fluorescent lighting, the smell of fresh coffee, and jazzy elevator music. Flint goes to speak with the receptionist at the front desk and ask about Tinder's whereabouts. The woman tries to explain that there is no Tinder here and that this place belongs to a company known as Ever After Incorporated. Flint is then told to go and speak with the branch manager, Mr. Moon. In his office, Moon explains that Tinder no longer owns this castle as it's now owned by Ever After Inc., the largest conglomerate in the world. In the real world, this company has developed cutting-edge technology that allows people to travel inside of books. The human owners of Ever After travel into these worlds and give fairy tale folk an opportunity to join the company. This effectively liberates them from the whims of their creators, saving them from living out the same old stories over and over. Plus, I hear they've got killer benefits. You hear about that dental and vision insurance? It's pretty hard to decline. Flint hears all of this and assumes that it's all one elaborate trick being orchestrated by Tinder. Just one big scheme that'll keep Flint from bothering her even more. You know, that's not the case, but if I was a dragon and knights were coming to kill me every day, I think I'd tell them to get a job too. Flint then tries to attack Mr. Moon, but then he's dragged off into the castle's dungeon. There, he meets up with Tinder, and the two form a temporary truce until they're able to escape and reclaim Tinder's castle. These guys are the three blind mice who are no longer blind since becoming loyal employees of Ever After. I told you that vision insurance was worth it. The mice reveal that Ever After Inc. isn't nearly as benevolent as Mr. Moon made them seem. The world the mice originate from, the land of nursery rhymes, has been destroyed thanks to Ever After's meddling. This avaricious company goes into a book, harvests all of its resources, recruits potential employees, then leaves that world in shambles. Storybooks are an untapped market after all, so it was only a matter of time before someone had to come along and ruin everything. Before escaping the dungeon, Tinder and Flint agree that they should get a job at Ever After to take down the company from within. The company is insanely powerful, so taking them down in an all-out brawl isn't really an option. Plus, Ever After has all kinds of fancy tech that give them a huge advantage in battle. So Flint and Tinder head back to Mr. Moon's office, and after a tough interview process, they become Ever After's latest employees. Starting out as just interns, our goal shifts towards earning promotions to climb up the corporate ladder. At the very top of this ladder is Ever After's new Director of Storybook Affairs position. This person would be in charge of the company's long-term plans, and they'll be granted access to the real world. So the plan is to get that job, head to the real world, and destroy all of Ever After's storybook traveling tech. To climb the corporate ladder, we complete various assignments given to us by Mr. Moon. This leads us on one big, wacky adventure through several storybooks where we meet colorful characters, solve puzzles, and of course, battle unruly fairy tale creatures. The battle system in Escape from Ever After is top-notch, which is to be expected since the game is heavily inspired by the turn-based Paper Mario games. But what I love the most about Escape from Ever After's combat is the way it expands on the Paper Mario formula. But before I get to that, let's start with the basic similarities. Just like with Paper Mario 64 and TTYD, battles are turn-based and use action commands, moments where you need to execute timed inputs to deal extra damage. Sometimes it's pressing the A button the exact moment an attack connects, and sometimes it's just holding down A until a meter is full. Overall, there's a good variety of action commands between all party members that makes combat feel fun and fresh. Instead of using FP, our special attacks require mocha points. You know, since we're coffee-sipping pencil pushers, we'll need a cup of joe here and there to cut loose in battle. And instead of star power, we use synergy points to activate our special abilities. We obtain SP by hitting those action commands, and we can get even more SP with the encourage command. Instead of appealing to an audience, party members will verbally encourage one another. I really like this feature because there's a unique line of dialogue between every party member. I had a lot of fun just seeing how everyone tried to boost each other's spirits. It's such a cute detail. If you've played Paper Mario 64 or TTYD, you'll feel right at home with the basics. As for the new stuff, let's take a look at the party members. Starting with our hero Flint, he relies on his trusty buckler. Not a beach ball like I initially thought it was. Unlike Mario, this thing is Flint's only method of attack. No separate option for jumping on an enemy. Though he does have an attack that involves jumping onto an enemy, it's not like a separate option or anything. Still, the buckler is pretty useful in combat. With Flint, he can freely attack grounded and aerial enemies regardless of their position in battle. The buckler's only weakness is that it can't pass through shields. Enemies carrying a shield will be able to guard various attacks, including Flint's buckler. Even if Flint tries to hit an enemy behind the one holding a shield, they'll deflect his attack. That's where Tinder comes in. With her basic fire breath attack, she can actually burn through wooden shields, allowing anyone to attack this enemy. However, she won't be able to attack enemies armed with weapons. In addition to shields, some enemies might have a weapon that they can use to fend off your party members. The toy soldier enemies, for example, have a bayonet that they'll jab you with if you get too close. You'll have to disarm them with a ranged attack like Flint's buckler. These different enemy types create this puzzle-like feel to combat, encouraging you to really strategize and fully understand each party member's strengths and weaknesses. It is a lot of fun experimenting with different party formations and figuring out the best way to deal with a certain group of enemies. That might sound a little overwhelming since Paper Mario 64 has 8 party members while TTYD has 7. However, outside of Flint, this game only has 4 party members, and that makes it a lot easier to keep track of everyone's pros and cons. But who are the other party members and what do they do best? In the first chapter of the game, we meet Wolfgang, an aspiring musician well known by his stage name, the Big Bad Wolf. He's just a big softie that's super dedicated to his music. Even though it seems like a lot of people don't really like it all that much, Wolfgang, like Tinder, needs to get in close to attack an enemy so he can't approach anyone that's armed. Though since he attacks with a magical lute, he can hit enemies through their shields. Even if Wolfgang doesn't defeat this enemy, his attack sends them to the back of the line, letting Flint attack anyone who would have been protected by this shield. In Chapter 2, we recruit Ava, a skeletal witch that works in Ever After's HR department. Just like Tinder, Ava was actually a villain in her storybook. That was until Ever After came along and gave Ava the opportunity to redefine herself. Her whole gimmick in battle is that she can use magic to shapeshift into different animals for her attacks. Her primary attack, Roo Romp, transforms her into a kangaroo, allowing her to jump onto enemies. Her drawback is that she can't jump onto anything spiky or she'll get stabbed. On the bright side though, Ava can attack any enemy on the field, and she doesn't have to worry about shielded enemies. In the third chapter, Patches joins the party. He's a little teddy bear that works as security in Ever After's IT department. He's got a real mysterious history that's tied to humans in the real world. He's also a pretty big fan of Wolfgang's music, albeit he only listens to it ironically. Patches hits enemies with a hefty punch, but he has to get in close to deal damage, making him vulnerable to armed enemies. He also can't hit shielded enemies because they'll just block his attack, so he's got quite a few drawbacks. I personally got a lot of use out of his special attacks. His Teddy Tremor ability allows him to hit anyone as long as they're touching a surface. This move is great for damaging multiple enemies at once, and it knocks down anyone hanging onto the ceiling. Every party member will get a chance to shine in combat, and that's something that I really like about this game. Whenever I replay the Paper Mario games, very rarely do I feel like I need a certain party member in battle. Outside of those rare occasions, I often just stick with my favorite party members and make it work. You will legitimately have to pry Yoshi and Vivian from my cold, dead hands. But here in EFEA, I was frequently swapping between party members and adapting to different combat scenarios. You know, it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy X in the way that you need to be flexible in combat to effectively take down certain enemies. It also reminds me of FF10 because we can actually swap our main character out of battle. Yeah, this allows for all kinds of party compositions, and man, it's just so much fun to experiment. In the Paper Mario games, swapping party members mid-battle can be kind of a hassle. If you don't have the quick change badge, you'll have to sacrifice a turn to get a new party member out on the field. Luckily, EFEA has a solution to that, and it's tied to the SP mechanic. In Paper Mario, SP or Star Power is primarily used to unleash these powerful abilities that you unlock as you progress through the game. In EFEA, you can use SP, aka Synergy Points, for the exact same thing. But you can also use SP to instantly swap in a new party member without losing a turn. Normally, this would cost you 1 point of SP, but on the first turn of battle, Insta swaps are free. This is a godsend, and it's super handy for just letting people adapt to each battle as they see fit. SP can even be used to revive dead party members. If you have 1 point of SP, you can cut your health in half and share it with a dead ally. This is a really nice backup plan if you suddenly run out of revival items. Giving SP all of these different applications makes it a valuable resource that you'll manage differently depending on your playstyle. I mainly used SP for swapping in new party members. As I've said before, I'm a horribly indecisive person, but I also got a lot of use out of the synergy ability Restoration. This is a party-wide heal that also restores a little bit of MP. I briefly mentioned it earlier, but synergy abilities are this game's version of special moves. Each party member in the game has their own synergy ability that gets stronger as you obtain more party members. For example, Flint uses a big slingshot to launch his buckler into a single enemy to deal a ton of damage. The more party members you have, the more you'll all be able to really pull that slingshot backwards to deal even more damage. Similar effects apply to every other party member and their synergy abilities. However, these abilities aren't all just big attacks that do tons of damage. For example, Wolfgang's Jam Session is a great ability that'll temporarily boost the party's attack and defense. So now you have even more options for how you want to spend SP, and it's honestly fantastic. Escape from Ever After breathes new life into Paper Mario's combat system, and it's legitimately amazing. Never once during my playthrough did I grow tired of combat or feel like I was just going through the motions in battle. If you're a Paper Mario pro and you're worried about this game being too easy, don't worry, this game's got a hard mode as well. So there's a decent level of challenge for newbies and pros alike. But unfortunately, there is one significant problem I had with battles. My issue stems from the game's guarding mechanic. You know the drill. In Paper Mario games, you press A right as an enemy attacks to guard and reduce damage. In TTYD, you can even parry enemy attacks with perfect timing. In EFEA, the guarding is pretty similar. You still press A with good timing to block an attack and reduce damage. However, if your timing is perfect, then you'll take no damage from the attack, meaning that there's no parry mechanic and it's all about reducing incoming damage. The problem is that guarding is really hard, like mind-numbingly difficult at times. I've played through both Paper Mario 64 and TTYD several times in my life, and I've never had this much difficulty when it comes to guarding attacks. Swear to God, I've had an easier time parrying in Lies of P and Expedition 33 than in this game. Okay, just to be clear, that one was a joke, but you get the idea. I'm not even talking about perfect guards, I mean literally just guarding an attack. At first, I thought I was pretty good at it. I was blocking those toy soldiers in the first dungeon like it was nothing. Then every now and then there was an enemy that I just could not block no matter how hard I tried. Okay, here's an example. In Chapter 2, we fight a lot of these mad cultists. One of their attacks has them running up and quickly jabbing you. This attack is so fast that I rarely ever manage to block it. Some cultists will also do this attack where they open a portal on the ground and summon a giant tentacle to strike you. I genuinely never once successfully guarded this attack in my entire playthrough. Whenever I saw an enemy use this attack, I was forced to just sit there and accept my fate. I think the problem might be that the guard window is just very small and a lot of attacks just aren't telegraphed very well. Those previously mentioned cultists will silently dash towards you and quickly jab. There's no audio cue for this attack, so you have to rely solely on visuals to figure out the guard timing, which is pretty difficult because of how quickly this attack comes out. Conversely, one attack that I had an easier time blocking was the unicorn's rainbow beam. A unicorn will walk up, charge their attack, then fire off a rainbow. There's a good visual and auditory cue that helps me figure out when I should try to guard. Also, I should mention that the game does offer a way to help out with blocking in the options menu. In this menu, you can enable Guard Assist, which ensures that you'll always guard an attack successfully. You can also enable Attack Assist, which has a similar effect for your attacks. While I do love that this is an option for anyone who would like to experience the story of EFEA, I just feel like it makes combat way too easy. I was really hoping for some kind of middle ground, like an option to increase the guard window. I just hope that someday the devs will add a feature that can make guarding a little less frustrating, because aside from that, I genuinely adore the combat in this game. Hey there, Ghost from the future here. They fixed the guarding. Kinda. Let me explain. As I'm writing the script for this video, I saw that the devs rolled out a patch that implements a new feature. The devs received a lot of feedback regarding the guard window, so they added a new guard feedback option. If this is enabled in the options menu, you'll now be given feedback that tells you why your guard failed. You'll be told if you were pressing that A button way too late or too early, and man, does this make a whole world of difference. I spent an hour and a half testing out this feature, and it's so good, guys. I had a rematch against those cultists, and for the first time ever, I finally blocked that tentacle attack. It turns out I was pressing that A button way too late, and now I've got that timing down. If you were having a hard time like I was, this feature is a blessing, dude. It's so useful. It is so nice seeing how the devs are very open to feedback and are continually rolling out patches to improve the experience. They're smashing bugs left and right and adding tons of quality of life features. If you ever encounter any bugs or issues during your playthrough, definitely communicate your problems, and I'm sure that it'll be taken care of in due time. Another interesting thing that this game does differently than Paper Mario is the trinket mechanic. When you equip badges in Paper Mario with badge points, they all apply to Mario unless they have a P in the title. Those P badges have effects that'll be applied to your partner, and that's really the only way you can give badges to a partner. On the other hand, trinkets in EFEA can all be equipped by each individual party member. Everyone has their own set amount of trinket points that they can use to equip each trinket. This allows you to fully customize your entire party with trinkets. And yeah, as you could have guessed, it's real fun to experiment with. During my playthrough, I made Tinder my tank and buffed her with health and defense boost trinkets. Ava and Wolfgang were my spellcasters that I equipped with trinkets that occasionally gave them free MP and reduced the amount of MP they needed for special attacks. Patches was my glass cannon, equipped with trinkets that boosted his attack while sacrificing defense. And Flint was just whatever I needed him to be at any given moment. I eventually got him the indecisive trinket for no reason in particular, but this trinket makes partner swapping free for the first 3 turns of battle, and man, it's so good. It is a really good trinket. If you have yet to play this game, pull out your notes app right now and write down indecisive trinket. You need to do everything in your power to get this one ASAP. Then on top of trinket points, you can use ink bottles to purchase additional attacks and upgrades for each of your party members. These upgrades modify each attack, giving them some sort of bonus while also making them cost more MP to use. Another trade-off is that these attacks require trinket points to equip. So you can have party members decked out with all these crazy and cool attacks, or you can save that TP for more trinkets. There is just so much room for experimentation and player expression that I absolutely love everything relating to this game's combat system. It wonderfully expands on everything Paper Mario established without feeling overly complicated or difficult to understand. It is a blast, and since beating the game, I honestly just want more. The last thing I need to say about combat is that the battle theme absolutely bangs. Daniel Whitworth was in charge of crafting this game's jazzy big band soundtrack, and it's amazing. I feel like there are a lot of songs here that you could take and slot into a Mario game and they'd fit right in. So many songs have this cartoony vibe to them that really complements the game's art style as well. The battle theme also changes depending on which chapter of the game you're in, and all of these themes perfectly match the vibe of the world they appear in too. It's always comforting to know that an RPG has several battle themes, because even the catchiest of tunes can get just a little grating once you've heard it for the 50th time in a row. Moving away from combat, you'll spend a lot of time running around, talking with NPCs, and solving puzzles. Yeah, this game has a lot of puzzles, and I think they're all super well done. They do a really good job of incorporating all of your partner's unique abilities, which we'll quickly cover. Flint's got his buckler, which he can use to hit faraway switches or grab items that are out of reach. Tinder can use her flames to light torches, burn away flammable objects, and even light up dark areas. Wolfgang can play songs in his lute to make plants grow or kick up gusts of wind. Ava can transform animals into mushrooms, which you can then jump onto like trampolines. She can also transform Flint into a seal, which allows him to swim in the designated areas. And Patches can charge up a slam that he can use to hit switches or destroy cracked objects. I feel like a lot of the puzzles often hit that sweet spot between not too easy and not too difficult. There were a lot of times where I really had to stop and think for a second before I could advance. Most of the puzzles are environmental, stuff like lighting torches, hitting switches, that kind of stuff. There's only a handful of times where you need to bring the right thing to the right person or say the right thing to somebody. One puzzle that gave me a really hard time was this one near the end of the game where you need to put a bunch of items in a specific order. The fish must be on either side of the display, the bread shouldn't be on either side, and there must be one item between the bread and the carrot. It's one of those puzzles. I've always been really bad at these types of puzzles, to be honest, and it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to complete. The game also does this really cool thing where sometimes you need to combine two different abilities to solve a puzzle. For example, in the starting dungeon, you'll need to light torches with tinder, but one of them will be just out of reach. You then have to throw Flint's buckler through the torch so that it can carry the flame and ignite the other torch. It's sick, and my only complaint is that I wish we got to do more ability combos like this. Because unless I'm mistaken, you're really only able to combine Flint and Tinder's overworld abilities. Oh, okay, wait, there's another puzzle that I need to bring up that really gave me a run for my money. There's one in the library where you need to line up these two bookshelves in a way that you're able to use them as platforms. The catch is that you can only move the bookshelves by pushing these little blocks along their respective paths. Originally, I wasn't going to bring this up because I was embarrassed at how long it took for me to solve it, but I found that a lot of people had trouble with this specific puzzle. The official YouTube account for Escape from Ever After even uploaded a video showcasing the solution to this puzzle. So, hey, if you find yourself stuck on the pre-Chapter 4 library puzzle, here you go. Not trying to flex or anything, but I did solve this puzzle without even watching that video, so just gonna throw that out there. Because if I can solve this puzzle, I'm pretty sure anyone can. When we're not exploring different storybooks, we spend a lot of time hanging out in Ever After Inc.'s headquarters. This is your Toad Town, your Rogue Port, the main hub area. Left of the receptionist desk is the office area. This place is full of cubicles all occupied by different storybook characters. Zombies, unicorns, and mermaids all have something to say about working for Ever After. Some of them are from real storybooks, like Mother Goose here. She is just obsessed with workplace drama and she'll keep you clued in on any hot goss. Though one of my favorite characters here has to be Pinocchio. He just wants somebody to hang out with. Hey yo, you wanna come out for drinks with me after work? Oh, I'm, busy, sorry. No biggie, my bud. I'm so lonely. I really dig this game's writing and sense of humor. I love any game that can make me care about characters outside of the main cast, and I'm happy to say that EFEA does exactly that. Because of that, I really took my time with this game and spoke to nearly every single NPC I could find. There were so many memorable moments that got a good chuckle out of me. Though concerning the main cast, I think my favorite party member is absolutely Tinder. I love that she always has a comeback just loaded in the chamber. She's got no tolerance for any shenanigans, and honestly I respect that. I also really like her dynamic with Flint. Throughout the entire game, she does not let this man breathe. She is always roasting the shit out of him, pun intended. Even as Flint warms up to her, Tinder is still relentlessly making fun of him. This has got to be one of the most accurate portrayals of friendship that I've ever seen in a video game. A bit further down past all these cubicles, we'll find Flint's office. Using the computer here allows us to do a couple of things. We can listen to the game's soundtrack with the music player, decorate our office, and check out emails from our coworkers. These emails are how we stay up to date on assignments from Mr. Moon, changes in the office, and potential side quests. Our coworkers will contact us directly through email, and we can go and speak with them to initiate the quest. A lot of these quests really take advantage of the game's office setting to create comedic and engaging moments. You'll do things like throw the perfect birthday party for a friend, attend an office-wide trivia competition, and settle grievances with toxic coworkers. There's a nice variation between all of these quests that keeps things from getting stale. Very rarely is it just a simple fetch quest. North of the office area, we can buy all kinds of goodies from the food court. Pastries restore HP, while caffeinated beverages restore MP. And if you find a snack infused with caffeine like tiramisu, it'll restore both HP and MP. Super handy. Have you guys ever had those tiramisu cakes that are like inside of like a mini baseball cap? I want one of those so bad right now. To the left of the food court is a balcony where you can purchase the aforementioned upgrades for your party members. You can also do training here to master the timing of your action commands. It's really useful if you've been struggling with the timing, or if you just want to test out a new attack without wasting MP or SP. I love how the training dummy looks like Flint's original design, back when the game was in the earliest stages of development. On the other side of the food court is the courtyard. It's a big, beautiful area where you can buy stuff from a few NPCs. You can buy clothes from Dracula and get some rare items from the Cheshire Cat. Though he doesn't take money. You'll need to hand over a few sun gems instead. These little crystals are this game's equivalent of star pieces. And just like with star pieces, you'll find sun gems hidden in little obscure areas. Then on the right side of the receptionist desk is the library. This is where you'll find Fairy Godmother's trinket shop, and it's also where you can use a device called a telepager to hop inside of different storybooks. As you progress through the story, Ever After's HQ will slowly expand. New areas, shops, and NPCs will all be added as you complete each chapter. There's also plenty of secrets to find with each new character that joins your party. It's fun returning to this area and discovering all the stuff that you can finally interact with now that you have the right party member. Oh, and I just have to mention that the game also has its own version of the Pit of 100 Trials. Known here as the Stairs of Success, you'll have to climb through 100 floors of battles that progressively get more and more difficult. There are no checkpoints, no printers to save at, and no vending machines to restore your HP and MP. Every 10 floors you get a helpful item and the option to jump back to the first floor if things are getting a little heated. As for what's at the top, you're gonna have to play the game and find out yourself. And just so we're clear, that's not me being coy as a way to get you to play the game and discover that secret for yourself. I genuinely don't know what's at the top. I made it to the 30th floor and I chickened out because I got a really cool item. So if you make it to the top, please let me know what's up there. Now I want to take some time to discuss the various storybook worlds that we explore throughout the game. I'll be doing everything I can to keep spoilers to a minimum, but I will be talking about the 4 main books we venture into. So if that's something you want to keep a surprise, it's time for you to clock out. Throughout the game, we receive various assignments from Mr. Moon that often require us to journey inside of company-approved storybooks. Our first assignment is located inside of a book called The 3 Little Pigs. Inside, we meet up with the pigs who are tasked with turning this forest into prime real estate. You know, since the pigs are experts at building houses and stuff, that's adorable. The problem is that they want to build over land that's inhabited by a village of wolves. The wolves don't want to leave, and the pigs aren't budging either, so we're here to handle negotiations. We try chatting with Wolfgang, who is the leader of the wolves, but negotiations go south and we get thrown off the property along with Wolfgang. We then decide to team up with Wolfgang and find a way to stop the pigs, since this would be the perfect opportunity to sabotage the company. I think that this chapter is really strong and showcases a lot of the game's strongest qualities. You've got plenty of funny moments, good combat encounters, and lots of great puzzles. There's this Lost Woods type area that you explore that has a bunch of puzzles, and they're all very satisfying to solve. It's such a strong introduction chapter that made me realize, yeah, okay, this game's a banger. There's also this moment where we discover that the unicorn construction workers are protesting against the little pigs. They've refused to work for the pigs because they're currently trying to replace all of their employees with robots. It's these little moments that perfectly demonstrate how predatory and malicious this company truly is. Whatever good this company provides is heavily outweighed by all of the damage they cause. Listen, I love my guy Pinocchio, but damn, he is one of those coworkers that would show you an AI-generated meme and you just have to awkwardly pretend to laugh at him. Now is as good a time as any to say that I really enjoy this game's art style, which is made by humans. A lot of the art and animation was handled by Ryan Kittner himself. Outside of Kittner, the team collaborated with a few other artists. Annalise Mack did several character designs, Rosie Jarvis handled 3D assets, and Jesse Goolish worked on concept art for a few areas. Overall, I am shocked at how well they've managed to capture the spirit of the Paper Mario games without feeling too copy and paste. The game looks so similar to the Paper Mario games, but it also has a visual identity that sets it apart from those games. I don't know how to describe it properly, but EFEA feels more cartoony. I think you can really see what I mean in the animations. When Flint and Tinder are running around, they're so bouncy and fluid. Meanwhile, Mario and Koops here are a lot more rigid and stiff. And just to be clear, this isn't me bashing either game's art direction. I'm just making observations, good old compare and contrast. The Paper Mario games also really lean into that paper aesthetic. You know, it's Paper Mario. Outside of the 2D characters, a lot of the environments look as if they were made out of cardboard and construction paper, especially in the later games. Meanwhile, EFEA has environments that feel a bit more organic, like these worlds aren't just made out of arts and crafts. Personally, I really like this design choice for EFEA. I think it helps set the game apart from Paper Mario even further, while also subtly conveying how the game relies less on these papery mechanics. Not once during this game will you be folding Flint into a little paper airplane, or flip through pages to unveil a secret bridge, or battle staplers, in case that was something that you were worried about. Before we move on, I wanted to bring up this piece of key art for the game. This piece was done by Kevin Fagarigan, and he's done a lot of cool stuff. You might recognize the work he's done for various YouTubers. I just wanted to bring this up because I've seen this piece of art a dozen times, and every time I saw it, I knew it looked familiar, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. So in case you were wondering and it was bugging you too, now you know. And knowing's half the battle. After completing the first chapter of the game, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on how the story was gonna go. Get an assignment from Mr. Moon, head into a fairy tale book, complete the assignment while sabotaging the company, and climb the corporate ladder. I played this game completely blind, and the entire time I wondered about what book we were heading into next. I was thinking Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Hansel and Gretel, Jack and the Beanstalk, you know, stuff like that. Before this chapter begins, we're tasked with retrieving a book from the forbidden section of the library. Pretty spooky stuff. The whole time we're exploring the library, I'm thinking, what book is so bad that it needs to be locked away in a separate library? The book we obtain is The Shadow over Innsbeak, a parody of The Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. Guys, I'm gonna be so real with all of you. This might genuinely be the best chapter in the entire game. I love this chapter so much. Again, I'm going to do my best to keep spoilers light, so we'll keep things brief here. Mr. Moon has us enter this book to investigate the disappearance of one of Ever After's most valued employees, Sherlock Holmes. It's up to us to find our missing detective and return back to HQ in one piece. As we investigate the infamous town of Innsbeak, we uncover clues relating to the disappearance of Detective Holmes. But we also unveil the town's connection to an eldritch cult. It is so much fun to unravel the mystery surrounding this town and watching all the pieces come together. Also, without giving too much away, the ending to this chapter is a solid 10 out of 10. Innsbeak is just such a cool location to explore. Thanks to the game's gorgeous art style, everything feels simultaneously creepy and cozy. I also really dig the music here. It's very jazzy, but with a tinge of spookiness. It perfectly embodies the mysterious nature of this chapter's story. You know, it reminds me a lot of Grim Fandango's soundtrack. Very cool and smooth. It's a funny comparison since that's also a game where you spend a lot of time looking for a missing person. There's also plenty of references to the original book, and it's so much fun spotting them all. This one's a bit more obvious than the rest, but here you'll spend a lot of time battling against the Deep Ones. These are grotesque sea-dwelling creatures straight from the book. The esoteric cult of Dagon is here too, but they've been renamed to the Order of the Feather. There's also this moment in the chapter where we're able to learn more about Innsbeak after helping out a drunk pigeon at the bar. This mirrors a scene in the book where the protagonist learns of Innsmouth's history from the town drunkard. And this next one might be a reach, but hear me out. Near the end of the chapter, our partner gains the ability to turn Flint into a seal, allowing him to traverse the waters near Innsbeak. I want to say that maybe this transformation could be a reference to the book's twist ending, where it's revealed that the protagonist is transforming into a Deep One. Again, that could be a reach, but I think that it's possible. I also adore how they've adapted this story to make it more appropriate for children. The game is rated E after all, so I was curious to see what kind of changes they'd make. I'm sure you've already noticed, but the entire town is now populated with birds instead of humans like in the book. It's a cute and silly change that I feel makes this world way more approachable for all ages while still maintaining that spooky vibe. The human characters in the book are described as very malformed and hideous. Large bulging eyes, layers of skin peeling off, and massive veiny hands. You can avoid all of those gory details if you just turn everyone into ducks. Plus, the characters in EFEA have their own irregularities that you can spot if you just look hard enough. My only complaints with this chapter are the aforementioned cultist enemies that are really tough to block. There's also a chase scene here where you need to sometimes push blocks and hit switches to escape. My problem with this chase scene is that when you're pushing blocks and stuff, the guy chasing you will begin to walk super slowly. I know it's to give you a little more time with pushing the blocks and everything, but it kind of kills the suspense a little bit. It also just looks really funny to have this guy sprinting at you, then suddenly he's awkwardly shuffling behind you. It doesn't really feel like he's chasing me anymore. It feels like he's passive-aggressively trying to tell me that I'm in his way and that I'm walking way too slow. Returning back to Ever After Inc., Mr. Moons decided to reward us with a company retreat for our hard work. This retreat is inside of another book called Treasure Cove, which is based on Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. At the retreat, we have a special meeting with the human CEO of Ever After Inc. She explains that we're all here to take part in a scavenger hunt. Somewhere in this book is a treasure known as Blackheart's Bounty, and it's our job to find it. Whoever gets their hands on this treasure first will receive a promotion, so we have to participate. Just like with the previous chapter, there are several references to the original adventure novel. For example, we go and recruit Captain John Silver to guide us in our adventure, a clear reference to the infamous Long John Silver from the book. Outside of a few more references, the story of this chapter deviates a lot from the source material. It feels more like a combination of several pirate stories rather than just one single story. At one point, a ghost ship appears, and that's something that doesn't happen in Treasure Island, I think. Still, I enjoyed this chapter. A good old treasure hunt is always fun to take part in. As we sail to each island and search for clues, we're constantly stopped by rival pirates and forced to battle. It's essentially the Glitz Pit from TTYD. We battle a pirate crew, rest up before the next battle, then speak with Captain Silver when we're ready to advance. I'd say that you spend a good chunk of this chapter battling enemy pirate crews, so if you're not a big fan of the battle system, you might get burned out here. It can also be a tad frustrating if you're struggling to hit those blocks like I was. Though I'm sure this chapter's a lot more bearable with that new guard feedback feature. My favorite moments from this chapter come from the times when we're able to hop off the boat and explore the different islands. I really like the first island we stop at, Port Cutlass. Here we solve a bunch of puzzles that require us to chat with NPCs, do some eavesdropping, and discover secret codes. I really enjoyed doing more puzzles that weren't entirely reliant on tinkering with our environment. It reminded me a lot of the Monkey Island games, and damn, I miss that series. I won't give it away, but the boss of this chapter is really interesting too. The boss forces you to use different party combinations throughout the entire battle. Whenever you bring their health down to 0, they force a different party combo. This boss will also ramp up the difficulty by equipping shields, weapons, and even summoning more enemies. I had a good time adapting to each phase of the battle and figuring out how to make each party combo work. Suddenly you'll have Tinder and Ava in your party while you're up against a bunch of flying enemies with spiked helmets. Ava can't jump onto them and Tinder can't attack enemies that are too high off the ground, so you've got to figure out a plan or you're screwed. Having to work my way around each enemy type made the battle feel like one long puzzle, and I don't know if you know this, but I really like puzzles. Getting Blackheart's bounty back to the company earns us yet another promotion. For story-related reasons, we go and visit the company's research and development division inside of a sci-fi novel. The book is titled the Icefall Chronicles, and I had a hard time figuring out what this book was based off of. For a while, I thought that maybe the Icefall Chronicles was a book series exclusive to the game, like The Adventures of Flint Buckler. However, I think that it could be inspired by a book called Icefall, which is part of the Clear Sky Chronicles series. This dystopian sci-fi book is set on a version of Earth that's entered a new ice age. At the very start of this chapter in EFEA, we're sent down to explore a similar icy planet, though it should be noted that this planet is referred to as Glacius 9 and not Earth. Those were the only similarities that I managed to catch though, so it's possible that this book is simply a mixture of several sci-fi stories. Also, I just have to mention that when you look up Glacius 9, one of the first results is a Star Wars fanfiction on Wattpad. That's just so random. Can we get a sequel to Escape from Ever After where we explore the worlds of different fanfiction? Please? I want to be trapped in an island with Josh Hutcherson. This was the one chapter in the game that gave me a bit of trouble. When we crash land onto Glacius 9, everyone is separated and we spend the first half of this chapter reuniting the party. There are a few times where you'll find a spot where you could use a partner's ability, but of course they're not with us yet. There's just a lot of back and forth in this chapter, and it's the only time where I wished we had a sprint button, especially since I got a little disoriented at times and forgot where I needed to head next. And speaking of moving fast, some of the enemies here are super quick. These flying aliens are lightning fast. If you whiff a buckler shot, they'll be on you in seconds. It wouldn't be that big of an issue if enemies didn't respawn so frequently. I kind of got my ass handed to me here, and the vending machines to restore all of your HP and MP, they cost a whopping 35 coins to use. That's steep! When we do have all of our party members, we're able to explore the R&D building. The goal here is to find all of the colored terminals and turn them back on. The building is pretty big and it has a lot of pathways that lead back to larger areas, so it can get pretty confusing to explore. I'll admit that I got turned upside down more than once in this place. But I had an easier time once I realized that this level is similar to the Great Bay Temple and Majora's Mask. If you simply follow the pipes at the Great Bay Temple, you'll be led to each of the valves that you need to flip on. We can apply the same logic in EFEA to reach every terminal. Just follow the pipes and you'll be set. Though in Majora's Mask, once you get water flowing through a pipe, you'll see that it begins flashing. EFEA doesn't have a visual indicator like that, so there were a few moments where I forgot which terminals I had already activated and which ones I needed to activate next. I really hope that in a future patch they could add a little effect on the pipes to show you which terminals are active. Because, oh man, I spent a lot of time bumbling around in this place. Trying to activate that blue terminal here was the death of me, oh my god. Then I figured it out and I felt like the biggest idiot on earth. Whoever put that puzzle in the game, that one was a mean one. I did not like that one. With chapter 4 all wrapped up, all that's left in the game is the final chapter, which I can't really get into without spoiling, like, everything. To quickly summarize my thoughts on this chapter, I think it's a strong finale. There were so many story moments that genuinely shocked me. I was already hooked on this game, but once I got to this part, I couldn't put it down. It's actually really emotional at times as well, and that just caught me so off guard. I beat the game feeling really satisfied with the ending, but there was one aspect of this moment that just feels so bittersweet and it really weighs on you. I think that bittersweet thing is my favorite part of this game's ending. As for the gameplay, the puzzles and battles are amazing as usual, but there is this one mini-boss. It's a group of 4 enemies and oh my god, this fight was just so irritating. If you know, you know, but Oh my god. This one battle had me letting out several deep sighs as I just struggled to compose myself. If you defeat any of these enemies, you need to quickly knock out the other 3 because if you don't, the living ones will revive their dead ally. On the bright side, the revived enemy doesn't regain their full HP, so that's really nice. Really appreciate that. I thought the final boss was pretty good though. I'm not sure how, but I actually didn't have a hard time blocking much of their attacks. You also get a really cool bonus during the fight if you do some of the special side quests. I don't want to give it away, but make sure you're doing those side quests. I promise it's worth it. Escape from Ever After is a phenomenal RPG made by people who perfectly understood what made the older Paper Mario games so revered by fans. This game is also so much more than just a Paper Mario clone. There are so many new options for combat, an abundance of puzzles in the overworld, characters brimming with personality, and a story that's full of twists and turns. If you have been itching for the classic Paper Mario experience, I cannot recommend this game enough. Escape from Ever After is available on Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch for just $25. And in case you're worried about the playtime, because I know RPGs tend to be a bit longer, you should know that my final playtime was just 25 hours. In that time, I completed the main story and roughly 95% of the game's side quests. I'll get to the top of those damn stairs someday. The devs have also been great at listening to player feedback and implementing changes whenever they're needed. They've smashed plenty of bugs with those hotfixes, and they've rolled out cool quality of life features. Most recently, they've added a way to keep track of collectibles in every level. It's little things like this that really shows you how much the devs love this game, and that level of passion is always admirable. So let's get down to business. I need you to do me a favor and play this game. And while you're at it, would you kindly go and suggest this game to your favorite Nintendo YouTuber? I have not seen nearly enough videos about this game, and I want like 50 more. At least. A huge thank you to my Supernatural supporters over on Patreon. And another big thank you to Hype Train Digital for sending me a code to Escape from Ever After. Getting to play the game a week early was just super cool, and after I beat the game myself, I was badgering my friends about it non-stop. I was talking with a friend while making this video, and I was just going off about all the different things that I love about this game. And in the middle of my big speech, they cut me off and they were like, okay, I bought it. So even if this video bombs, I got you guys one sale. No need to thank me. This video was really fun to put together because it was kind of like a spur of the moment type thing. I mentioned it earlier, but I was actually working on a different video at the time when I got the code for Escape from Ever After. Then on the following day, I played the game to kind of like test the waters, see if I want to do a video on it, maybe not. Then I ended up getting super addicted. I beat the game in a weekend and I was like, okay, that other video is just gonna have to wait. I need to do this one right now. I also just really like talking about indie games. The very first video on this channel is a little compilation type thing where I'm talking about a bunch of different indie games that I'm like hyped for. That's always been something that I've been a little passionate about, so if you want to see me talking about more indie games, just let me know, and I'll keep doing that. Probably gonna do it anyways, but the feedback is appreciated. Also, for 2026, one of my New Year's resolutions was to start reading a bit more. That's not a segue into like a sponsored thing, that's like a legitimate thing that I have for myself. And I wanted to ask you guys if there are any cool books you recommend? I'm specifically looking for anything horror. Whenever I like Google must-read horror books, it's always stuff by Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft. Are those books like the kings of the genre? Like, which ones do you recommend? Or do you not recommend those ones? Just whatever you recommend, please leave a comment and let me know. I don't think I have like any standards or anything. The last time I read a book in its entirety was a manga. I don't know if that counts, but I read the entirety of Goodnight Pun Pun, and Jesus Christ, oh my god. So yeah, whatever you recommend, I'm just gonna trust you guys. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys. Take care.